So in 5, 4.
Hi. Am I on?
Yes, that's why I pointed at you. You're live.
I'm live and I'm having the giggles. Hi, welcome to Wednesday night, and we're having another live reading. And I'm reading from Resilience, the 4th book of the series. This is the 3rd night I've read it, and the thing about Resilience is that it talks a lot about friendships. Well, that's kind of the theme of the Walkerville Desires series anyway. Friendships, women, friendships with men, friendships with, mothers and daughters and family members. So when we left Lorraine last night, she was beginning to realize that she had friends for the first time in her life with Martha Janine and Leslie. And she also had driven Gordon away because she didn't think that she was ready for that kind of a relationship, the boy-girl kind of relationship. And the other thing about this is that I'm going to do like one reading tonight. I'm not going to do two. There's we're going to some local spots, Glass Beach and Worthies. I just wanted to have you guys get a feel for Walkerville. So Lorraine and Gordon have been in contact, and they have decided that they, it would be okay if they met and talked. They both agreed that meeting in a neutral place was a good idea. Gordon suggested Glass Beach, the locals' beach where she'd never been. She insisted she'd drive herself out there, and he agreed, giving her detailed directions. He said it should take about 20 minutes from her house, and suggested dressing in layers. They would meet around 1 o'clock. Having never been out there, she gave herself a full half hour to get lost and find parking. Gordon had mentioned a sand dune behind the parking lot. She noticed his truck and was dumbfounded to find out there really was a sand dune, one that she would have to climb in order to get to the beach on the other side. Tying her windbreaker around her waist, she was glad she wore sports sandals as she struggled up the mountainous sand dune. And then she stood at the top, breathing heavily, out of shape. It was cold and gray and cloudy. And she made a victory sign at the top. And then she slid down the dune on her butt, screaming, laughing, and having the time of her life. Like a pill bug, she rolled down the dune, stopped by what felt like a soft log. Uncurling herself, she looked up, realizing it was Gordon's sturdy legs that had locked her. They looked at each other for a while. Then Gordon made a couple of observations. "I really like your haircut. I can see your eyes. They're sandy colored." She replied, "Really? Thanks. And I've always been told they were whiskey colored." "That'll work," he laughed. They stood facing each other awkwardly. "If you were a friend I hadn't seen in a while, I'd hug you," he said. Brushing the excess sand off her face, clothes, shaking out her hair, she replied, "Yeah, I guess we're not really friends, sort of undefined territory." "Well, at least can I hold your hand while we talk and walk?" he requested. She shook her head. "Nope." Then, seeing the disappointment in his eyes, she explained, "I need to know what I'm doing here. I want to know why you sent me that rose and the fiddlehead ferns." "Really?" She had promised herself on the way over here that she wasn't going to give an inch. She would stay in control. She would be friendly. She would be kind. But she wasn't going to get too physically close to him. She wasn't sure she could keep that resolve. He shrugged his shoulders. "Okay, follow me then." They walked on the beach as she oohed and awed to the silent crescendo of tiny million shapes, sizes, and colors of frosted sea glass polished by the waves and sand. She felt like she was on a magic shore, each piece of sea glass a wish she could make and keep. He saw the shoreline with fresh eyes. He'd been coming here all of his life. He hardly noticed the sea glass glimmering all over this part of the beach. For the locals, this beach was secret. Generations of Walkervillians had been coming here. It was hidden by the huge sand dunes which required a commitment to climb in order to get to the beach. She slowed down, realizing they couldn't hear each other because of the gritty wind, the breaking waves, and the shrill grumbling of the seagulls. He quickly moved his body in front of her, buffering her. They leaned in so they could listen to each other. Lorraine found her voice again. I'm the bullied wife of a bully. I lost myself for many years. Trevor was my only hold on sanity at times. It was awful after he left for school. When Bill killed himself, I didn't cry. I was just grateful he didn't kill himself in the kitchen or the bedroom. I felt guilty, and when I moved back with my parents, I started getting panic attacks. Sometimes I thought I would die. I got some help. I got some therapy. She peeked to look at him. He was listening intently, hanging on every word. What I realized was that therapy was a great help. However, it didn't help me with the reality of meeting you and liking you so much, and being so afraid I'd get bullied again. He put his arm out as if to hold her, then changed his mind. Instead, he said, I would never bully you. I would never hurt you intentionally, and if I did, I would apologize. I've missed you. I want to be with you, he confessed. She looked at him, searching his eyes. A slow smile spread on her lips, reaching her eyes. I believe you. I had to figure that out for myself. I couldn't be with you and try to figure it out. It was like I was watching my world with a roll of film that was all double exposures. I was confused and couldn't believe anything I heard or saw. I just remembered what I had lived and felt for so long. He asked tentatively, and now? And now I'm not so scared or confused. Okay, maybe confused. Yes, I'm probably confused, but I'm not scared anymore. Hesitantly, Gordon confessed. With Callie, I was worried about her. She never wanted to leave the house. She wouldn't go grocery shopping. She wouldn't go places. We never went out. We didn't have a social life. And then she got cancer and died, and I felt guilty. I never talked to her about her fear of leaving the house. I've never told anyone that, though I think some people wondered. Martha Janine dropped hints every once in a while. She felt a rush of empathy for this man and felt honored that he shared this with her. My therapy told me I was as sick as my secrets, he whispered, touching his face. Touching foreheads, he suggested, let's be each other's secret keepers, okay? Saturday night and Worthy's was packed. Gordon was glad he'd made a reservation. Cora Worthy, proud owner, was in attendance as the hostess. Nodding at Gordon as she saw him from across the room, she quickly picked up 2 menus plus the drinks menus. Gordon, she greeted amiably, so good to see you. He had his hand on Lorraine's elbow. You as well, Cora. Cora, may I introduce you to Lorraine Collins? Cora lifted an elegant eyebrow as she measured Lorraine in a nanosecond. How do you do? I believe you are Trevor's mother. Taken aback, Lorraine replied, yes, Trevor Collins. Seeing her surprise, Cora explained, he and Ruth were just in here last night. They make such a lovely couple. It's so wonderful to see Ruthie so happy. Ah, Lorraine nodded, if that explained everything. Please come this way. Cora threaded her way through the crowd. Gordon nodded to people, shook hands with a few, smiled across the restaurant at a group of people as they were led to a back booth. Great, Cora. Thanks for the booth. Cora smiled, laying the menus on the table. I'll send your waitress around for drinks. Lorraine peeked up at him. Hey, did you two have a fling or something? Gordon blushed a deep red, shaking his head. No, at least I never thought about her that way. She replied, busy with the choices on the menu. What does that mean? He asked, eyeing her suspiciously. Shrugging her shoulders innocently, she said, Oh, nothing. It's just that she sure gave you the once-over when we first arrived, and she checked me out to make sure I wasn't some floozy you just picked up. Observant, aren't you? He teased, reaching for her hand. Their waitress took their drink orders. Lorraine ordered a glass of Riesling, while Gordon opted for a ginger ale. She frowned. May I ask you a question, Gordon? He nodded, sipping his water. Sure, anything you want. Fiddling with her napkin, she unconsciously traced fingers around some initials and dates that were carved on the table. I noticed when I made dinner you didn't drink, and tonight you didn't order any alcohol. Is there something I should know? Winking, he replied good-naturedly, Told you were observant. Seeing the seriousness on her face, he continued respectfully. I drank a lot for a while, when I was up in Idaho especially. I realized I spent more time in the bar, so I decided to cut back. I do drink occasionally. Besides, I'm driving, remember? Not satisfied, she persisted. So what happened in Idaho that you drank so much? What happened to make you notice that you were drinking too much? Gordon thought about it. I've been going up to Idaho for a long time. The first few years, I felt like a load had been lifted. I felt like I was in a brand new place. No one knew me. I felt I had freedom. I wasn't Callie's widower. I wasn't Al's dad, or even the Montrose's foreman. I was just me, Gordon Lively. Buttering a warm piece of French bread to give himself more time to formulate his thoughts, he continued, I bought my cabin. I fished a few hours a day. At night I was lonely, so I went to the bars for a few drinks, and I ended up staying till closing sometimes. Looking back on his behavior, Gordon realized he had never done this before. He'd never felt like he had to reward himself for a job well done. In Idaho, with no one to take care of, with no one who knew who he was, he rewarded himself for all the years he had taken care of Callie, for the time he put in as the Montrose foreman, for the care he took raising Al. Never once during the years of taking care of other people did he ever think of himself. He was respected in Walkerville as a stand-up, reliable, solid employee, husband, father, and community member. All of his successes were outside himself. These were all measured by his relationships to other people. In Idaho, he didn't have that distraction. In Idaho, he found himself asking, Who am I? He found himself looking forward to returning to Idaho. Not to fish, but to drink. He woke up one afternoon, and he hadn't been fishing all week. The cabin stunk like a brewery. There were empty bottles all around. He hadn't had a decent meal in several days. He realized he didn't want to live like this. Idaho was his place for solitude, a time to think and fish, to relax. He'd been using that time to drink. His face was rueful. It's a shameful part of my history. I've never told anyone. I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't stopped. Laying a warm hand on his, Lorraine quietly said, I think this is what makes us who we are. When we're faced with challenges that may be brought on by someone else or something else, and we fall victim to those feelings, then we wake up one day, look around and wonder, how did I get here? And then we decide to change. That's what life's about. Some people go through life without doing anything, without expecting more of themselves. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that we've been through some internal struggles that only we could get ourselves out of. They sat across the table, a pyramid of hands, Lorraine's hand covering Gordon's hands covering hers, vibrant smiles reaching eyes and hearts, oblivious to the cacophony surrounding them. Whew! And that takes up the whole 15 minutes, folks. So once again, that's from Resilience, the fourth book of the series. I want to thank you for joining me. And don't forget to look at the bottom of the YouTube page. And if you like this and you want to help us, please click like. And you can find information about how to get in touch, you know, if you've got questions, you've got some feedback, and also if you just want to say, hey, AC's archiving all these readings, and there's a link that with the playlist below as well. And he's got the link for tomorrow's night's live stream there. And I will be back tomorrow, Thursday night at 11 o'clock my time. I hope to see you soon. Thanks again for coming. Good night.